Welcome to day number 2 of the 7-day Untangling Overwhelming Emotions Challenge. My name is Sven Lauch, and as I mentioned, this is the second day of a challenge where I give 7 tips through 7 videos over the next 7 days to learn how to untangle emotionally overwhelming situations. If you haven't watched the first one, then please just click on the link somewhere above me and go back to session number 1, where I share about the importance of breaking down our overwhelm, and that will also help you to have a better foundation for the ongoing sessions. Today, I want to speak about the importance of naming our emotions. And before I go into the naming part and why it's important, I just want to quickly share what are emotions. In my work as an emotional logic coach, and when I started using that method for myself, I've learned something fundamental. Emotions and feelings are two different things. Emotions are actually biochemical. They're happening in every cell of our body. While feelings is what our thinking brain makes up as it connects it to different other situations and memories. Emotions provide energy in us. I'm reading a book right now called Good Anxiety by Wendy Suzuki, and she explains it very well. And I just want to read this one sentence from the book to just explain to you what happens when we are under threat. So she writes here, the brain sends signals to the body, which then reacts with increased heart rate, sweaty palms, a surge of adrenaline and cortisol, so there are 2 hormones, and a shutting down of the digestive and reproductive systems so that you can escape quickly or ramp up your strength to protect yourself. And that really sums it up, what a shock response does. So the emotion of shock and all the other emotions, also the emotion of anger and guilt, they give us the energy to act, to do something about it, to respond to a situation. And we are wired for emotions. We are hardwired for it. They're important for our immune system. They're important for our survival. They're important that we can protect our values. So when I share it with others, what are emotions, then for me, emotions are a call to action to defend something that you value. The thing is that it becomes very hard to respond constructively to the emotions when they become overwhelming, when there's just too much going on. Remember my story from the first video between Christmas and New Year, that I suddenly realized it was not just one thing. It was not just the inability to go to Germany and really missing my parents and missing to be able to visit them and to be able to visit the family of my wife, but that there were other things also happening at the same time, with kind of really thinking about what's the next year going on. And you realize I had to break it down because I was overwhelmed with emotions because my body was responding to multiple threats of my value system. But remember, it's a good thing that we have emotions, that our unpleasant emotions are there for us to take action. That's what their purpose is. Something that we teach a lot as I coach people on emotional logic. We speak a lot about the idea of emotions having purpose. For instance, one of those emotions that we are so often trained in our society to avoid is anger. And the purpose of anger is that it provides us with energy to take action, to make change in the world around us. We are so often taught that we shouldn't be angry. And what also happens if we have a false understanding of anger, for instance, is we actually use it against ourselves. And I will share more about this on, I think, day 4. In order to really tap into that energy that emotions provide us with, we need to be able to recognize them. We need to be able to really feel and respond to our body and recognize what is going on in our body. Because if we have too many emotions going on and we can't recognize them separately, then it can become very hard to respond to each one of them purposefully. So the challenge and the tip today is that I want you to learn when you're overwhelmed and you have done this first step of breaking down that overwhelm in all its different situations and triggers, that you then begin to focus on one and you name the emotions that and feelings that you feel for this one issue. Now, I know that that can be a hard thing to do. I know that if you have struggled a lot with, for instance, depression and anxiety and possibly even other disorders like post-traumatic stress and stuff like that, it can be very hard to actually begin to feel again. Because when we are in this constant state of anxiety, depression, and have just learned this way of trying to just control everything, what can have happened there is that you're actually not really aware anymore of what is going on. What are you actually feeling? And what we need to learn is to relearn, to allow ourselves to feel. And for me, the mindset shift that I want you to take away is your unpleasant emotions are not against you. Your unpleasant emotions are there to help you take constructive action. They are there to help you to change something, to become better, to respond to a challenge, to personally grow. If we have unlearned almost to feel, we need to relearn to feel. And I read a book which really helped me to process a lot of the things over the last 2 years. It's called Running on Empty by Jonice Webb. Look it up. It's an absolutely amazing book. But what she shares, what her subject is she talks a lot about the whole idea of childhood emotional neglect and how we might have never learned when we are younger to process our emotions properly because they were not validated, they were not affirmed. And that is what is really important. In order for our body and our brain to properly process emotions, we need to name them, we need to accept that they are there, we need to affirm those emotions as what they are, and then it will be much easier to process them. And that is why it is so important. Now, if you struggle to name emotions, you sit there like, I don't even know how to do this. I don't know how to start. And Jonice Webb, in her book, she had done an exercise, and I created a PDF. You can download that. It's also for those who have signed up to the newsletter. It will be attached to the email. There is an exercise in to take every day, just 3 times a day, a minute or two. So, like in the morning, wake up in the morning, ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? And then just write down one of the feelings and emotions. And then midday, around lunchtime, just take another minute, just stop, find a safe place, and feel in, and then write down another one. And initially that might be quite hard. So if you're not used to feel, if you're not used to be aware of your emotions and feelings, that might be hard. So you might find that initially you just sit there like, I don't know, I don't feel anything. But I want you to trust the process. You know, the PDF will contain 7 days. And I want you to just go and do it every day. Put it in a diary and make sure you do it. The other thing that might happen when you're struggling with your emotions and feelings, and you really find it hard to name them because actually you're lacking the vocabulary in the very first place. You don't even have words. You know you feel something, but you don't know how to name it. I've also attached the PDF that was actually freely available on Jonice Webb's website, where she compiled emotions and feelings, hundreds. And I encourage you, go through this and name feelings and emotions. Learn to build up vocabulary. You know, in my work and as a coach, for instance, one of the things we use is we use like these cards. There are 2 sets. There's a cards with feelings, and there are cards with 7 grief emotions on. One of the things that I always enjoy working with people is that as soon as they become aware of their emotions, they also become far more positive and responsive in order to actually wanting to do something about it. Today, the tip is learn to name your emotions and feelings that are present when you're emotionally overwhelmed. Tomorrow, we will look into what can we do with all those voices inside our head that go on in our roundabout inside. Please leave a comment or like. If you have questions, put it in the comments down below and let's discuss it. And please subscribe to the channel so that we can all stay on this journey. See you tomorrow.